heard what you wanted. You want a little bit better jungle pathing for Basham. Return, what are you looking for out of this game, out of an adjustment for St. John?
I think I'm looking for something similar. I think Basham really has to control the pace of this game early, because when you're looking at, Reaper versus Basham, Reaper won that matchup hands down. The amount of effort work he was able to do on the top side really wasn't answered, so I either want to see a differentiation in the top lane style, like if you're not going to go up there, give something that can survive on that island. Otherwise, if you're going to go all on top, send it.
But I don't think top is a really great way to play right now, personally.
Yeah.
I feel like bottom side is just way easier to actually capitalize. There's way more going on the bottom side of the map. More people, Yep. You gank bottom side, you can get 2 to 3 kills instead of just 1 to 2 top side. I mean, that's very basic, but of course, it's mostly around you power people up on the bottom side, then they can secure Dragon, and then they can scale much faster. So I feel like just being objective focused is the name of the game. It feels like it's very reminiscent of how it used to be back in the day in like Season 2 when Dragon gave gold, right? Everybody was just focused on Dragon every single time, right? That's how it feels right now, is it's back to just focus on the Dragon. There is a little bit less of a, I say, asymmetry in the map, because now there is a Rift Herald on top side that can spawn twice and can lead to gold, but you have to eventually convert to bottom side of the map. I think it's even more important than the Baron is, and you're able to use those stats throughout the entirety of the game. So I feel as though bottom side is the best way to play right now.
Well, focusing on the bottom side is DePaul. They will pick up the Thresh for Hunky Hank, and we've talked about it time and time again. He's a big-time playmaker on that champion. Also, slight adjustments from the ban phase from St. John's. They do add in Ornn now into their ban phase. They keep the Kiana and the Kaisa. They left the Morgana up, but DePaul more than happy to take the Thresh for Hunky Hank. Rise, Olaf, and Lucian, the first picks here for St. John's. DePaul go with the Pantheon along with the Thresh as we get to the final pick here.
I was actually expecting St. John's to pick the free space in the middle of the bingo board, and that's Morgana at this point.
Right.
Into the Thresh matchup. It is now going to be definitely on Vision and Shadow Sneak to not get hooked, and if you've watched Hunky Hank before, that is a much easier thing said than done. But the elephant in the room, I think, on this draft for DePaul is the Pantheon. Now, of course, here in Collegiate, especially between our 2 tournaments that we've been running here at ESL, we haven't seen much success in the Pantheon, in the top lane, in the mid lane. It's going to be interesting to see whether a team like DePaul is finally going to be what it takes to make this shine at a collegiate level, because we know it can do it at a competitive level.
Yeah, it's really interesting to watch and see what Pantheons end up doing. But he is an early game champion. He is like early mid, and I think that's perfect for the meta, because you don't really have to worry about falling off, because if you get the dragons, you're kind of boosted up by them to have a late game. So if they can do that, use it. I would say it's going to go top side, or can go mid. But if you use it on top side to allow yourself to gank top very early and then transition to the bottom side, basically what DePaul did last time.
Yeah, so you can see the focus here. We touched on it. You think the bingo board was supposed to be Morgana. Instead, Morgana gets banned away along with another support, Braum, for Vision, formerly known as Ember Ward. So St. John's put in priority, getting their AD carry on something comfortable. Shadow Sneak did have a pretty solid game that last go-around. Just wasn't quite enough. Wasn't quite the same game. King Amazing had an amazing game. So, it kind of canceled out. We might forget how solid he was on the bottom side of the map. Xayah locked in yet again for King Amazing. And it does look like there is a Rakan that is free.
Yeah, and for DePaul, I think it's really a case of if it isn't broke, don't fix it, especially with King Amazing on the Xayah. But it is also a little bit of a trade. I mean, you have the Thresh J4 combination now coming to DePaul. So it's going to be interesting to see whether they can really leverage this bottom side of the map. And I think this definitely, for me, shows that Reaper is going to be way more focused towards this bottom side. St. John's, you have 2 engagers down here, but when you start stacking on the J4, when you start stacking on potentially those roams coming through from the Pantheon, you really can you thought 2 kills were enough. Now just get the whole team down there. It's a whole feast. It's Thanksgiving around the corner.
Yeah, forgive me. Rakan not needed because you got Thresh on the map already for Hunky Hank. We touched on it earlier. Hunky Hank now hovering Blitzcrank. We already know that's not going to be it. I like the fact that St. John's goes with Leona over in Twitch Rivals. Got to see Coach Expecial of Harrisburg University pull that out a ton, and the all-in aggression on the bottom side of the map, reflecting what Zyrene was saying earlier. Win that bottom side, and it's easier to control the Drake and then basically control the game.
Yeah, and I don't know what's going to exactly happen this game, because there's multiple casters on St. John's side. They have a decent amount of engage, so the bottom side of the map, very, very heavy on getting in there and trying to just beat up King Amazing and Hunky Hank. And then they also have that Olaf on top of it. So DePaul, I feel like you can pretty much go to any lane as the jungler here. Reaper is very free. But on St. John's side, it's either going to be you go for top side early or you go to the bottom side here. I feel like the mid lane you kind of want to avoid unless you're countering. It's a little harder to get the LeBlanc. You can go after the jungle himself, but Basham, I'm watching his jungle pathing, as we talked about at the beginning. I want to see an adaptation from him to see what he does here as the substitute jungler and what his pathing looks like, because I don't think it was optimal last game.
Right, and I think guys are still figuring out that jungle path. Again, with the experience changes, with the respawn changes, all players are still experimenting. And it's, again, got to talk about it because it's playoffs. Basham, normally an AD carry. St. John's making not only a role swap, but a player swap in multiple different areas. So St. John's learning on the fly. All right, time for predictions. Who you think is going to take this one? I'll go first here. I think that St. John's showed a lot of fight. I was worried that it was just a draft usage here, but I still like the fact that you've got a nice solid bot lane for him. I'm going with the Red Storm in game number 2.
Wow, really? You're going for St. John's in this one. I'm going to have to go with DePaul still, even though I felt like, you know, their composition wasn't as AoE focused. They still played the map, I think, better, and they understood what they needed to do on this patch, which stood out to me, where they knew how to not just play through bottom lane, but play through top to play through bottom eventually. So I think that versatility and the fact that they could play to more places makes them less predictable. And I think that's going to have St. John's on the back foot. So I have to go with DePaul here.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna have to agree with Zyrene on this one for sure. DePaul, yeah, there we go. Got the color caster duo for sure, but the DePaul side, not only did they have that map control, but also, you know, you gave Hunky Hank the Thresh. That, along with this fact that a lot of these lanes, I'm a little bit confused as to what the real idea is going to be, especially towards the bottom side. Like, you think about how you go in, no one asks why you go in, and that's going to be the question for Leona. Plus the Lucian. But if they can answer those questions, like St. John, they're going away from the team fights that they really weren't executing very well on towards the end. So maybe this is the magic formula, but my money's on DePaul.
Yeah, and it depends. Can he flay all of the Zenith Blades, right? Like, there is a way to counter.
Well, before we hop on in to the game, remember, Reborn, only 2 games on Orianna. Still looked great. So maybe this Cass, even if he doesn't have a ton of experience on it, he can play anything. That's the thinking there as we get ourselves into game number 2. Maybe the decisive game of the semifinals. Remember, best of 3 between these 2 squads.
Yeah, it certainly is. And I really like that you hit on Reborn for sure, because he's going to be one of those carry points. You're not expecting much out of the Ryze lane itself. Usually it's like Ryze plus something coming in, but going towards this late game is going to be one of those carries. But if you're at St. John's, this is the kind of player where you grab his rookie card, you get him to sign it, because this is so far a really good performance. I will be looking at this mid lane for St. John's as the season does go on, but you know, enough of looking to the future. That's what this entire tournament's been about. We got to focus on now.
Yeah, and I completely agree. And the top side is where I'm focusing here, because it was the big mismatch where maybe Soon was able to get the much better advantage over Pinky by using his jungler. And now Pinky's on this Cassiopeia. This champion takes Conqueror now because it gives you a bunch of healing. You can stack it up very quickly with all of your basic attacks and ease, and you can get to that point where you are just getting that extra adaptive force, that extra healing, and you become a machine gun that also heals yourself somehow. It's a bandage machine gun.
Yeah, absolutely fantastic, and it is going to be, you know, the machine guns are going to be all the way through. San Jose, there's going to have to be some battle lines drawn. I mean, you mentioned before Cassiopeia plus the Ryze, and also the fact that Cassiopeia is picking up the Conqueror as well with the Olaf, and it is going to be turning into just who can put out the most DPS in the late game, whereas DePaul, I think they're really trying to subvert that. Because if you look at 5 champions, just everyone gets all abilities off, you definitely think that St. John's is the team that wins in a straight DPS fight. So it's going to be on the side of DePaul to find those little pockets. That's what the pick is for from Pantheon, the J4. Thresh, of course, does fantastically. And then probably one of the most notorious pick champions of them all in the mid lane, you got LeBlanc as well.
Yep. And right now, I'm looking at J4, looking at the pathing here from Reaper. He's actually going to go invade to the bottom side. So it looks like he didn't really understand which side was going to be the one that was started on. He went for a full blue side clear, and now he's going to the mid, and he's going to catch Reborn right here.
Yeah, Reborn flashing, and the shortest flag and drag I've ever seen in competitive play still gets the flash. Successful gank by J4.
Yeah, I feel at that point, you just have to keep smacking him. You can't EQ that early. You have to hold it and wait, because as soon as you EQ, that's when he flashes, but that means you can get more melee attacks in, force it to come out. You already slowed him with the W. I think that's a little bit bit of a misplay there in terms of J4 mechanics.
Yeah, and now while it may be a bit of a misplay, you still have to look at what does it open up. Because when you're looking at the jungle, especially in the mid lane, especially with somebody like Ryze, who isn't the most mobile champion in the game, it's about what do you set up to come back to Flash being gone.
Oh, Basham able to smite that one out down to 4 HP, but now maybe soon coming on in. Reaper also
Flash?
joining in the fight. No flash necessary. Basham does get over the wall. Maybe soon still has his. One more auto attack's going to do it. He's able to pick up the double buffs and the first blood over to DePaul.
I have to see that again because Reaper did go for the EQ flash, and it looked like he flashed in place, but at the same time, it did look like he got the knock up, so I'm not quite sure exactly how that panned out there.
Might need the slow-mo replay of it.
Yeah, I'm going to need the slow-mo replay of it because I'm not sure if he got it. We'll see this one more time. Reaper goes for the EQ and the flash. Let's see, EQ. Yeah, see? See? He got the knock-up.
It's the flash for damage. Come on.
That's so...
Welcome to C-Lol.
It didn't even look like he flashed. He literally was in the same spot. Like, he somehow flashed in place, but he actually did get the knock-up. So it was one of those ones where he maybe didn't trust himself, but he's lucky that the thing lollipops, so it ends up knocking up a little bit around it at the end now, since a few patches ago.
Yeah, Reaper looking a little... as much as he's looking shaky, he's had 2 successful ganks. He had a gank and an invade, and it's putting Basham, the inexperienced jungler, on the back foot early on. You hate to be that guy, especially when you're on Olaf, falling behind early, then you're just kind of running around later without gold and without damage.
That may have actually been a spectator bug too, where you flash on him and it just looked really awkward because that looked like a massive J4 of just radius for the knockup. So I'll give him the benefit of the doubt that he needed to do it because I thought he needed to do it. I was saying EQ flash and it looked like he did it and it worked. So regardless, it gets them the kill. The flash was necessary.
Pinky, a lot more of the same right here. Pinky stepping up a little more. Here comes Reaper. That knockup lands and another successful gank by Reaper. Another kill heading on over to DePaul.
And that's the kind of top lane fight where, the Pantheon top's like, all right, I was just baiting him. That's why I missed some of my engage and went on down. But that was almost devastating. Yeah. Imagine we live in a world where Pinky's able to grab the blue buff this early on into the game in top lane. Pantheon can just go away at that point. He can go roam. He can be the second jungler at that game. Because that would be absolutely devastating. But, that's that kind of thing where it's like, is this the perfect 1,000 IQ plays coming out from Reaper and DePaul? Or maybe they're stepping into a few things with luck. But one thing that at least can be said for sure is that DePaul now has a lead because of it.
Yeah, and what I'm noticing from St. John's is they actually are using their jungler not as a real jungler because I feel like the jungle, if you're a real jungler, you tell your team what you need. You're like, I'm starting bottom. Make sure that my top side is warded or like this. Junglers, we flame a lot, unfortunately, because everybody has to interact with us and help us out. And if one person doesn't do it, it's like, you really messed up my top side. So I'm looking at this going, well, if Olaf had actually gone for, instead of Krug route, he goes 3 camp and gets his blue, then that doesn't happen, right? If his top side isn't warded, which it was last game. So I think he assumed it was going to be warded again this game. And so it's this whole kind of cascading effect of, make sure that my top side is safe.
Yeah, Vision forced to back off. Of course you don't flame that much, Zyrene.
No, because GLHF.
Exactly.
You know what?
He is a good netizen.
I'm actually a little upset that Flame is now synonymous with, telling people what to do or feedback or what they've done wrong. Because at that point, teachers are just flamers.
No, that is not what we're saying.
They hand you back a paper with an F. You're like, why you got a flame, bro?
Dude, Mr. Peterson's the biggest flamer I know.
I know, right?
Right now, St. John's starting to fall behind. They need to find a little bit of a fire under their butts to get going right now. DePaul taking control of this game. They were able to get the big rotation down to the bottom side of the map as well. Take the Drake.
And you're already seeing here the map being split once again in favor for DePaul on the top side. St. John's is moving down to the bottom side of the map, and I think that is something that certainly those last few fights on the bottom side of the map do allow you to have. I mean, the fact that you're able to blow the flash away from Vision, you can somewhat dissuade this Leona plus Lucian lane from going super mega aggro, and that does let you play. Actually, I did get that incorrect. All right, so the colors are messing with me a bit. The fact that St. John's is red
to say that.
with blue. All right.
That's why I struggled with the who took the Drake.
The blue side is red and the red side is blue.
TLDR, Leona blue flash. That's why I got here.
So we take a look at our chat challenge after we see Pinky able to flash away.
Woo!
He's getting bullied.
I don't care about
Dessert!
Dessert!
Yeah!
So make sure if you haven't voted yet, Follow us on Twitter at ESL
They can
Collegiate.
stop voting now. I'm
make a vote now.
No, I'm just kidding. Go ahead.
Guys, you wouldn't want to make vegetarians Irene to eat turkey or ham, would you?
That's actually, you're really mean.
Just
You are
you wouldn't
really
want
mean.
to do that. So go vote for dessert. Make that happen.
Exactly.
As again, in the top side of the map, maybe soon. Just having a pretty
Oh.
solid series overall.
Oh, it's a
but
party.
anytime we see the fat zoom out, we know there's about to be a fatty dive under a turret. Reborn might have a gray screen and have an opportunity to live up to that name. Unless he outplays it.
Whoa, he knew.
Whoa!
He, as soon as he saw that coming in, he was like, hello.
I want no part of this.
Yeah, that in order to stop that, maybe soon would have had to flash.
Hunky Hank!
Woo!
He's in trouble! Bash him! Able to get an assist there, and Vision with the rotation on up. The fatty flank went a little bit awry there.
Where'd he go?
Up to the top lane. Does still have to be somewhat worried about Cassiope because she will just be a machine gun of damage, but so far, DePaul haven't really broken this game. Oh, look at the mid lane.
Oh, here we go. Damage starting to roll on through. Kamcha able to get himself out to safety. Reborn does get chunked relatively low, but Basham right place, right time, forcing Kamcha back. He will hold on to his flash along with Reborn, and now Basham being tracked. Nice sidestep away from Reaper. Will flash away instead of using the ulti. Keep safe for now.
Yep, make sure he can stay healthy and continue his jungle route, because if he takes that damage and ulties, it means that he's not going to be able to go for his blue, his wolves, or anything like that. So he would be pushed out, especially since the top side is pushing too. So he has to go do his camps now. But right now, he doesn't have a Rise. Rise needs a TP back if he wants to any way to help this. But Basham is now going to get invaded by 3 people.
Yeah, this looks like a repeat of the first blood. No flash. We know because he used it earlier in precision spear there coming from Pantheon. Now on the bottom side, Shadow Sneak goes down to the Ignite by Hunky Hank. Vision able to get the stun down on Hunky Hank. Supportal combat, support on support damage. Vision wins yet again. Reborn now joining into the fight. King Amazing trying to salvage something here. Vision will walk himself out to safety, and Reborn is on the board.
And while Reborn is able to TP into the bottom lane to prevent it being an absolute loss from St. John's, look at what's being given up around the map. We mentioned in the mid lane, you need Rise to TP in, push out the wave. Since the wave was never taken, you have a bunch of plays going on over the way of Comches LeBlanc, and now complete control on this top side of the matchup. Of course, maybe soon already pushing out the top lane, but now Herald, 10 minutes into the game, setting up a double Herald potentially, and DePaul basically have the roadmap for how to break this game open.
Yeah, the fact that they were able to kill the Olaf and kind of reset him means that they can play to that top side, that they're going to get that Rift Herald, and also maybe soon has teleport. He used his ultimate to get back to lane instead of TP, so the dragon that's coming up soon, in about a minute, will mean that he will have that available. He will be able to go in, and they can also cause a different pressure point by using this Rift Herald. So this is basically, DePaul is setting up for a potential power play.
Yeah, these are like the jabs you get in during the middle of fights to set up for that uppercut that knocks him out at the end of the day. And something I even love on top of that is the fact that you have Pantheon, somebody with a semi-global ultimate, a big movement ability, plus the TP, means that you can invest your time into one side of this map and then immediately skedaddle back to the top. So there's no huge advantage to be picked up here from Pinky because the movement comes from ADB soon. That being, oh yeah, there we go. Right as I say that, immediate left turn, checks the Google Maps, and I think he's headed down to this bottom side.
Yep. Yeah, Drake is about to spawn. The death sentence being written in the death note by Hunky Hank, but whose is it? The Zenith Blade does land. TP will come out from Pantheon.
Into the alcove!
Nice flag and drag doesn't land anything.
Into the alcove!
This is the death alcove. Vision able to flash away. Nice play, but the sun coming on through, and the kill is picked up. Here comes Kamcha. He wants a piece of it. He gets a piece of it. A double kill heading on over to Pantheon on the top side of the map. No response from St. John's.
And now the Drake is up right now. Even though the Cassiopeia and the Rise are pushing in, this is just the setup for the later parts of the game. They're going to send the LeBlanc back to mid. The Pantheon might go as well, and they're going to go straight there. Actually, they're looking for the cutoff.
Yep, Rise, Reborn. He stayed just a little too long.
Got the
Final
plate.
auto attack gets the plate. Hashtag
Ulti.
worth. Flashing a bit further. Now using Realm Warp. Does not get knocked up. Nice prison. Holds maybe soon in place, and the chase is still on. Reborn. Slippery Snake gets himself out of safety.
Now they can go back towards that dragon after they pretty much neutralized the waves. They pushed the Rise off, and they got his flash.
Yeah, that was a lot of setup because they were able to make the play towards the bottom side. Then retroactively, tight in the top lane. Maybe soon taking a lot of damage, but he's got backup.
Yeah, Pinky needed to try and burst him down, but Kamcha roaming on through, able to get the assist. Maybe soon stealing all the kills. He says, don't touch that, that's mine. 600 gold bounties, 6-0-0, 6-0s all over the place.
I was just about to say, I hadn't really looked at the scoreline for maybe since like, oh yeah, DePaul, they're spreading it out pretty well. That's a 6-kill Pantheon.
Yep.
I don't think there's a single champion in this game who can even look at him in the lane.
Yeah, and especially since he'll just, it's not just damage, it's durability with the E. You saw it there where even though he was at a disadvantageous fight, he still picked it, played it perfectly, and turned backwards for the ultimate from Cassiopeia. So he's just going to get stronger, and especially with the introduction of new lethality items, I'm interested to see what his next item is. It's probably Black Cleaver, but then from there, is he going to start going for things like, you know, the Edge of Night that people don't particularly like, but has a shield on top of it, can allow him to play against some of these mages? I'm curious.
Yeah, also, you have options like the Sanguine Blade if you want to go as solo macho man, I am on my own, this is Sparta kind of build. Given the extra lethality, given that extra attack speed in those 1v1 situations, turns an already problematic matchup into an absolutely devastating one. But Herald being popped on the bottom side should get this first tower, and plus, since they're pushing more down here, they might be able to transition this over to Drag.
And the funny thing about Sanguine Blade, too, is it allows you, in a one-on-one, to actually stack up your passive much faster. So you can cycle it very quickly with attack speed that Pantheon normally doesn't get.
Reaper turning his focus now onto the Drake. The second Drake heading on over to DePaul. We'll get to see how this affects the Rift, and it'll be an Infernal Rift. Again, that changes the landscape of the jungle.
Burn it!
A lot of them going away. Reaper trying to get a little engaged. King Amazing, Hunky Hank, Vision, can't see where he's going. Able to use the stopwatch to buy a little bit of time. He is a tanky boy. Reborn now trying to jump into the fight. But it looks like it'll just be the support being sacrificed. Hunky Hank taking that one himself. He said, finally a kill. That doesn't go over to maybe soon. Nice little burst damage there by Reborn. Pinky just a little bit too late in the fight. Oh. The flash, Undertow does land. King Amazing has to turn, and he has the damage, and bash him. Gets bashed right in the face. Reborn trying to get a stun. Holds 3 members in place, but it's not enough damage coming out of Sneaky. He's able to pick one up. So Shadow Sneak doing his sneaky impression, able to pick up a kill just a little bit later. But Pinky, a little late. DePaul getting aggressive and picking up a couple more kills.
Yeah, great turnaround. And I mean, given the situation that St. John's is in, any sort of gold that they can start channeling into their big DPS carries, that's going to be money well spent. But it is going to take a lot more than just that to stop the role that is DePaul so far, because this is how you play aggressive League of Legends. You take objectives and give nothing away. If you want to play late game, you go 1 for 1, you go, tit for tat. If you're DePaul, you take everything, no sharing, only child syndrome.
Yep, and they're just going straight in. They're making sure that they can actually kind of flex this lead they have. They have completed items, they have Drakes, and now it's getting to the point where they use that Rift Herald on top of it. So I'm looking at the next move here, because the Drake is not up for a little bit longer. It's probably rotations around the map to secure turrets now. You've gotten the bottom one, you're placing people in mid, and you're playing off top. So it's that top side jungle that you want to go to for the next few minutes, and then you want to swap things over to the bottom side for Dragons. So it's kind of like a 5-minute plan that you have going for you in the next few minutes.
Well, St. John's, they need to come up with the plan soon. The gold lead was 2,000 when we saw the sneaky escape from Reborn earlier. Then Pinky got caught. Then we saw this fight on the bottom side of the map is now ballooned to a 5,000 gold lead. Only 16 minutes in this game. And Kamcha, thinking about it, looking at it, feeling it. Shadow Sneak, able to get himself back out. Kamcha not quite at an item break point where he's able to burst someone down with the combo. And so Shadow Sneak will stay alive. I think, and this is kind of like this lull that you're talking about. You have a 5-minute plan, but nothing's really up. It allows Kamcha to go around, try to make these types of plays, see if we can get a pick. No pick here, but no punishment coming back from St. John's.
Yeah, and the fact that the Thresh doesn't really have wards right now to place down, you would want to ward up this whole top side, get the Rift Herald that's coming up in about 15 seconds, and then reset and go bot side. So they haven't really been able to do that because of the lack of wards and the lack of back timing. So I think that's a little bit of a mistake, but Hunky Hank, I trust him on this.
Yeah, and this is giving quite a bit of time now for St. John's to at least start to feel out the matchup. And even if St. John's does end up going down, something that other teams who are going to be looking at DePaul in the finals have to keep their eyes on, and that is potentially the slowdown of the game, because this is where you start to find things back. But with Shelly, are they still both named Shelly? Is it like Shelly Jr.? This is Shelly Senior.
You know what's
that
funny?
Goes down.
Is I'm actually the person who came up with Shelly.
Oh, all right,
Yeah.
Perfect. We have the expert on the situation. What is the naming scheme?
It was a conversation I had with Dash when we found out that the Rift Herald was female when they made that whole change. And he was like, "Oh yeah, Heraldina sound like it was like Herald to Geralt." or Geralt the Herald, I was like, okay, I like Shelly because she got a shell on her back.
Right.
Like, oh man. And it's also a good name to yell when somebody does something that's not great.
Well, there comes maybe soon. He wants to yell something. Nice stun there by Pinky to buy a little bit more time. Reborn has joined on in. The Rise dishing out damage. The stopwatch buys time for Basham. Reborn's able to get one. Things going slightly wrong here for DePaul. Vision very low, but not finished off. Pinky also very low. They're able to pick up a kill, but here comes Kamcha for the cleanup. Reborn, he's ticking on Ignite. He gets burned down. Kamcha going in with a distortion. Able to pick up 2 and takes the Dark Passage to safety. It looked very wrong for DePaul, but they're able to get it very right. A death sentence written in the death note, and Shadow Sneak turns into a shadow. Another kill heading over for DePaul.
And DePaul, they're still setting up the plays. They're still using the advantages, but they're starting to reach the ceiling of some of these assassins during the fight. It's not the giant AoE combo, so they're able to pull off some of these picks at the very beginning of the fight. But when you let, just once again, DPS carries, Cassiopeia, Rise hit for long enough, they will find you something back. So other members here for DePaul really need to be starting to step up to fill that void left by the assassin being the main beat.
Yeah, and I think the big thing here is Lucian is not in the fight at all. He's at the bottom side. He has to back. He doesn't have teleport. He's walking, and the LeBlanc is able to get a part of this fight, and that's the cleanup at the bottom because she comes in, she almost finishes the Leona off right off the bat, and then she continues pushing down, blows her flash. So it's a 5-on-4 and everything is all said and done, and Lucian does not get a part of it at all.
Yeah, the only part he gets in, by the time he gets in the fight, Hunky Hank lands a hook, and Lucian did all that walking to just go back to the fountain. That always feels bad when you're always late to the rotation and try to get on in. Meanwhile, during the replay, maybe soon, rotating to the middle, mid lane, and taking down the mid turret. So all outer turrets have fallen for St. John's, and DePaul continuing to accelerate this game. A good way to do so is taking this Infernal Drake. It'll be their third one. They do get a catch out here onto maybe soon. That is a very fat shutdown gold bounty heading on over. The Drake is taken. Hunky Hank low will be able to get himself out to safety. Nothing to hold him in. But it is a big 1,000 gold swing for the third Infernal Drake for DePaul.
And he was trying to just walk there, mind his own business, gets hit from the side, pops the E in time, to be honest, and I think it's actually a really good block, but at the same time, I think he's trying to click the Lantern, and I don't think he was completely off of Miasma. So you can't actually take a Lantern on Miasma. The way Miasma works is it's coded as a route that you can walk during. So anything you can't do while you're rooted, you can't do on Miasma.
But now it looks like St. John trying to go for an early Baron to pull the fight. Hunky Hank, though, landing onto Vision, and untouched is King Amazing. This is going to be a whitewash, or should we say a blue wash, because DePaul take this fight so easily. One member falling, and it's the Baron now in the eyes of the Blue Demons.
And it's a completely different game here. DePaul able to snowball the top side even harder, use Reaper in both games perfectly, and you look at even just his kill participation, 1-1 and 14, and he's been just wrecking this game. King Amazing on the bot side holding it up, and this team is looking poised to make the finals, to go up against anybody that they have to play against.
That's right. The winner of this match, looking like DePaul, will take on the winner of our second semifinals coming up right after this match, Villanova and Seton Hall.
And this has been the stain on DePaul's record is St. John's. They are currently 6-1 after the regular season, moving into playoffs, which we're in right now. So DePaul, their one loss, their one blemish is St. John's, which was a 2-0. It wasn't even a hard-fought series from DePaul. It wasn't one that went the distance. It was a 2-0 shutout, and DePaul, they've had that on their mind. They want to get revenge, saying, you know what, you just got lucky, and they're trying to prove that here today, that their adaptation, that the fact that they have come in as the #1 seed is not just for show, and it is not something that was lucky on DePaul's side either.
Yeah, Shadow Sneak gonna get caught out. Not so sneaky here. Maybe soon is gonna live up to his name and say, I will take you down. Maybe soon. Accident. Not sure what active that was supposed to be. But it was the stopwatch into the ulti. Maybe soon, maybe looking a little flashy there with his plays. Taking down the split pushing AD carry. And DePaul, dominant form here. Gotta take a look at the decision by St. John's to go with a different roster in this playoffs. Again, you touched on it, was a clean win during round 4. So we have the fight breaking out. Ulti does come down from Vision. Not quite able to hold anyone in place for your damage dealers. St. John's down another member for at least 22 seconds.
I think the stopwatch is supposed to be just the Youmu's. You know, I think he's just wanted to run fast, and then he did the exact opposite. Or it was style points. He's like, I'm a golden god, and he just goes straight in. But maybe soon, pretty much showing off this game, showing that top side focus early is good, and then moving it to the bottom side can be optimal. So moving forward, we'll see if they have any more strategies. But so far, it's been Reaper playing off maybe soon early, and then cashing in with King Amazing and Hunky Hank later.
Yeah, again, remember we have XP changes to the top side of the map, a slightly larger gain of XP compared to the bottom side of the map. 2% more for a solo laner on the top side, 2% less for the duo laners on the bottom side of the map. Cataclysm comes on in. Nice hook by Hunky Hank. That's the vintage Hank that we're so used to seeing. And King Amazing, he's looking for a second penta, but multiple members now getting into the fight. Kill for Maybe Soon, kill for Kamcha. Sunned up, but Maybe Soon still staying alive. It's a double kill heading over, and a victory in the books here for DePaul.
And that'll be the first semifinal here for DePaul, moving on to the finals, playing the winner of our next matchup. But this is the blemish on their record. Wiped. The only thing that matters for DePaul moving forward is this final best of 3 that they will be playing later today.
Yeah, DePaul, season after season, always finding their way into the finals. Even as a 1 seed, will they be able to get to the championship and finally crown themselves kings? We'll find out in the series later today, but congratulations to DePaul for taking the victory and completing step 1 of winning their semifinals against St. John's.
Yeah, and honestly, the first game looked a little closer. Honestly, the stats are going to lie to you a tiny bit because of the fact it looks close. The Orin does so much for them. And I feel like you have to look more at the play and the way the game felt than the way the game looked, because it was a much bigger advantage for them with the Dragon Soul and all of that. But this game, I mean, it's faster than you could even get a Dragon Soul. It's 24, 23-ish minutes, and those can't even happen until 26 plus the time it takes to take the Dragon. So overall, it's an incredibly fast game. They weren't using too many of the mechanics that were brought in the new season, and instead they were just like, okay, maps opened up, we've got some Infernals, let's just push straight down, and they were able to just use their impressive teamwork as well as, I think, superior jungle synergy with their laners.
All right, well, Returned is standing by to break down one of the big plays from that last match. Returned, what you got?
All right, well, what I got is 101 zone controls. We're going to let DePaul take us to class a little bit here as how they use zone control, their abilities, and some Zhonya's action to win a fight against a superior DPS composition. And we're going to take a look right here. Before we get into this, do note that that is currently a dead Pantheon. Yes, this was right at the end of the game. Baron buff up and available, and a good pick coming out of St. John's sets them up with a 5v4 fight. And one thing we also have to recognize is that when you have a Ryze and a Cassiopeia, even if they're a little bit underfed at this point in time, they will win the DPS AoE fight. So what they want is to hold this fight at a medium range, get that damage out, and just whittle down the opponent's war of attrition. You've seen it all before. And as we let this game roll on out, you can see how DePaul start to approach this. Keep in mind that Pantheon is so close to coming back up here. And actually, we're gonna let this roll out just a little bit longer as DePaul starts to take their stances around this Baron. Initially, Kamcha goes in, gets a bit of harass, nearly takes out Basham completely, but it's what comes here in just a bit that really separates it off, and there we have it right here on Reaper. As Reaper is able to grab an ultimate that stalls out this fight and then Zhonya's through it, not only keeps him alive during this engagement, but actually buys time for what's happening up here. And that's a menu. It was having what's happening up here, and that is the teleport coming in from Pantheon, the giant unkillable beast that has been carrying these fights. So by locking everyone in this zone, it allows this backside for DePaul to disengage away from the damage, get safe space, and then once everything is coming through, once the Zhonya is gone, you have a beautiful two-sided flank that you're able to take into this fight. And you'll watch it play through right here. Of course, as Reaper comes out of that Zhonya's, it is time for the attack. It was a great hold at range, and when Maybe Soon is already here, it's already over. DePaul have routed the side of St. John's and successfully secured their spot into the finals here of our preseason invitational. Back to you guys on the desk.
All right, thank you, Returned. Way to work through that one. Yeah, recovery is always really big here, so great job there by Returned, always breaking down all the action. And again, Reaper, I think, had a fantastic job in the jungle. And you got to see a little bit of a veteran jungler compared to a great player in Basham, now trying to fill that role. What difference that makes.
Yeah, and honestly, for St. John's, they've had roster swap-ups pretty much the entire season, so big shout-out to them to make it to the semifinals, to make it to the playoffs, and even beating DePaul previously in the series they had played in the regular season. So this team is what the preseason is all about. right? You figuring out who's going to be your starting roster. What are their attitudes like? What's the synergy like? What's the teamwork like, right? How are these guys, these 5 members that we want to move into the 2020 season with, how are they gelling? And if people are, not going to be playing their role optimally, you can be like, oh my gosh, we just did this. And hey, look at Reborn. This guy can actually pop off. So you're like, okay, maybe he's our mid. Maybe this guy's playing a different role. So I think it's a big kind of experiment for them that is going really well despite their preseason ending here today.
Yeah, again, you touched on it. That's what preseason's for. So congratulations to Pinky, to Basham, to Reborn, to Shadow Sneak, and to Vision for making it to the playoffs for the first time in St. John's history. Before we go to a break and prep for ourselves for match number 2, I want to remind you guys, hop online, vote for what we are eating for the Cast and Chat Chowdown, brought to you by Grubhub, our official partner of the ESL Collegiate program, proud partner of our ESL Collegiate Big East preseason invitational. Make sure you go online and vote. Thanks for the guys voting for dessert. Keep it there and stay here as we prep for match number 2, Seton Hall and Villanova, a rematch of the 2019 regular season semifinals. Don't go anywhere. You're watching the Big East preseason invitational.